evening, and welcome to the January 28th, 2025 regular meeting of the City of Troy Planning Commission. Copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting are available at the entrance to the room. Agendas and minutes of prior meetings are available on the city website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended by the Planning Commission.
State law establishes planning commissions. This planning commission is comprised of 9 residents appointed to serve our community. Members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. Other individuals participating in the meeting include representatives of the city's planning department, city attorney's office, and the city's planning consultant, Carlisle Wortman Associates.
If you wish to address the Planning Commission, please come forward to the lectern when recognized and clearly print your name and address on the sign-in sheet. Please begin your remarks by stating your name for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the Planning Commission and not to anyone else in the room. If you have a cell phone or any other device that might disrupt this meeting, please either switch it to silent mode or turn it off. At this time, I ask the Planning Commission Recording Secretary Kathy Zarnicki to conduct the roll call.
Mr. Buechner?
Here.
Mr. Faison?
Here.
Mr. Fox?
Here.
Mr. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Krent?
Here.
Mr. Lambert?
Here.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Here.
Ms. Parakis?
Here.
Mr. Tagle?
Here.
Quorum present, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of tonight's agenda.
I'll move.
Okay, Mr. Faison, and seconded by Mr. Fox. We'll take the roll call.
Okay, Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Here. Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Buechner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from the January 14th, 2025 meeting. Mr. Buechner? Ms. Malala Holly seconds it. Any discussion? All right, we're ready for the roll call.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
I'll abstain.
Mr. Buechner?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comment for items that are not on tonight's agenda. So if anyone's here tonight to talk about something that's not going to be discussed later in the meeting, now is your time. Come on up. Please sign your name and address, and then we'll give you 3 minutes once you sign in and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Now, do I have 3 minutes to speak?
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Do you know how long it takes an Italian just to say hello? In fact, for years I've been meaning to come, the Planning Commission, and I don't know how I'm going to really expedite, what I'm here for. But granted, because you're always involved in such, grand scale, construction and things of that nature, and I'm here just particularly because having lived in Italy, and knowing that millions of Americans travel abroad to Italy, you have a Greek name, to Greece, they go there to see the art, the architecture. They're there to see the beauty, and that's the thing I'm always conscious of, particularly when I drive down Big Beaver Road. I've been doing that for years. I've been a resident for about almost 30 years. And I remember years ago actually seeing in the Troy Gazette this article about Big Beaver Road, the origins of Big Beaver Road, and the fact that, there used to be cows meandering down Big Beaver Road when it was a rural area. Now, if I had to choose between the cows and all the parked cars that I see now, I would choose the cows. And, I think the original planners here, even the decisions they made with regard to these, glass buildings were really, visionaries. They were visionaries. I'd like to know if there's a visionary, on the Planning Commission, an artist, an architect, a gardener who knows how to create a beautiful garden. And I find the most beautiful area of Troy is probably between Coolidge and Crooks on Big Beaver Road. And I think one of the reasons is they put those tall, narrow cypress trees there. and you see, and this is what the Greeks and Italians knew. I'm a classicist. You know, my interest is in symmetry, balance, unity, beauty. You know how much that gaps my eye every time I'm driving down or on Big Beaver Road? Why don't you consider continuing that continuity, probably as far as even DeQuinder, so that people in Troy, people who are visitors, leave not because they went to Somerset, because they thought that this, you know, this avenue here, which is our public relations, really, avenue of people who visit Troy, what a difference that would make. Just think, you know, and I've been basically head of landscape committees at a couple of different condominium associations. I'm able even to attain the optimum with the minimum amount of cost. You know, you don't have to go to some big scale, you know, landscaping place to achieve that. And the other thing is, with some of the changes that have gone on that I've seen, of course, even on the corner of Big Beaver and Crooks, the buildings are nice, but again, I just see more parked cars. Why do you plant shrubs that high where there are going to be parked cars? Visit your neighborhoods. Look at the arborvitaes. They're used all over, you know, and they're not
Very
that
much.
expensive. So I'd like to see maybe you consider, again, any additional building and even what we have here now rectified so that when people come here, you know, they
Thank
leave
you.
with this kind of an imagination.
Thank you, we appreciate it. Is there anyone else here for public comment on an item that's not on tonight's agenda? Okay, then I think we're going to move on to our preliminary site plan review, SPJPLN 2024-0011, which is proposed Big Beaver mixed-use development, south side of Big Beaver, east of I-75. The address is 363 West Big Beaver, Section 28, currently zoned Big Beaver zoning district. And I believe Mr. Carlisle is going to present it to us.
Thank you.
Yep.
So an application has been submitted, excuse me, for a mixed-use development on the south side of Big Beaver, north and east of I-75. It's an infill of an existing parking lot for an existing office building on Big Beaver. The subject site is zoned Big Beaver Form-Based District. So north is actually to the left here, so when the site plan was given to us, it was reoriented. So the existing office building is fronting here on Big Beaver in this general location. The applicant is proposing a 7-story apartment building on the back side of the existing building on Big Beaver. The first 2 stories will be a parking deck, and then 5 stories above would be apartments in 2 different towers above the 2-story parking deck. The residential building, as noted, has a 2-story parking deck, and then the residential towers above it are split between 2 towers. Each of those 2 towers are 5 additional stories, so again, a total of 7 stories. We do note that level 3 contains a very large outdoor gathering space in between the 2 towers, and it's also a green roof on top of both the 3rd deck as well as the top of the towers for both of them. There will be a bridge that will connect the existing office building with the proposed apartment building. We do note that the front and side setbacks are compliant because it's an existing non-conforming because it's in the back of an existing building. However, we note that the rear setback, which is, again, on the right side of this diagram, is at the building is placed right at the rear property line. There is a required 40-foot rear setback in the Big Beaver district. We had spent a lot of time with the applicant discussing this matter. They tried to design the building so that they didn't need a variance. However, they came back and felt that they needed to seek a variance. So they are seeking a variance for a 40-foot rear yard setback. For this reason, tonight, the Planning Commission is not asked to take any action on the item, but simply provide feedback for the applicant. And they will come back to the Planning Commission if and when they do receive the variance from the Zoning Board. We note there are a few points of entrance to the site. There's one directly off Big Beaver to the site. It's the one outlined in green. There are 2 indirect points where you have to kind of circumvent through existing parking lots. Another one off Big Beaver where the Drury Inn is, as well as one in the rear end where Spencer Drive. We do note that there is a new sidewalk on both the east and west side of the office building that will connect to the existing sidewalk on Big Beaver. A large apartment building requires a significant amount of parking. They are required by the number of units as well as the proposed office building. There's shared parking. There's a total of 359 parking spaces required. They are providing 233. They are seeking a shared parking relief through the Planning Commission. The city traffic engineer, OHM, has provided a parking study and has provided some points of discussion for the Planning Commission to consider with regards to shared parking. We do note that of the 233, 192 are on site, and there are 41 spaces that are in two separate shared parking easements with the property that's currently the Drury Inn site. So they are seeking a shared parking through the easements of those as well. As I noted, OHM did review their shared parking. They note the following questions or concerns. One is, how are the parking requirements going to be met during construction? Specifically, once you take out, they're building the parking deck on top of existing parking, so once that's gone, there'll be during construction, that parking will not be able to be utilized, so where are the office building going to park during construction period? Since the lot user uses to use a portion of the lot on 575 Big Beaver, that site should be evaluated to ensure it has enough parking to do the shared parking as well. And there should be some additional wayfinding between the two sites for shared parking purposes. We do note that all the landscape requirements have been met. The diagram to the right indicates all the levels of landscaping that will be performed. It's kind of unique because most of the time we see landscaping at the ground floor only. However, there are really 4 levels of landscaping proposed with a significant number of green roofs and other elements that we typically have not seen here in Troy. So it is a very unique and creative way to incorporate landscaping into the site. We do note that lighting levels are compliant. Fixtures are compliant, except they are seeking approval to have a decorative light fixture that would just require Planning Commission approval because you can visibly see the light source. As noted, the floor plan, there's parkings on level 1 and 2. There's an outdoor gathering space on level 3. And the residential levels are on 3 through 7. We do note there's a total of 110 units. It's broken down into efficiency, 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom, and the unit sizes are 600 square feet up to 1,100, 1,200 square feet. This is the elevation as looking at it as if that building that fronts on Big Beaver was not there. It's the elevation that would front essentially on Big Beaver. So you can see the first level is parking with a parking deck above it. The third level is that outdoor terrace area I spoke about. And then the top levels are those residential areas. It's primarily a light gray, dark gray, and brown type of material or color palette. It's primarily a cement board panels with some metal entry overhangs, but primarily a kind of that cement board material for the whole project. Here's some colored renderings of the building. Some additional color renderings. I will note the applicant has provided a very lengthy video that they want to show that kind of flies around the site and gives a better visual perspective of the building. So we're asking the Planning Commission tonight to consider the application. However, again, no action should be taken until the applicant obtains a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. However, we do ask the Planning Commission to consider the issues raised by OHM, ensure a pedestrian route through the parking deck from the shared parking areas, evaluation of the shared parking proposal, and lastly, a consideration of the decorative light fixture. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carlisle. Does anyone on the commission have any questions for the planning department? Mr. Lambert.
Can you, and this may go to the other staff here, this is a legal non-conforming building. How do we treat that as far as the consideration by the Planning Commission?
The building is legal non-conforming in terms of its placement and the fact that there's a drive-through between the street and the building. It's a drive-through for a financial institution, and financial institutions drive-throughs are actually permitted in Big Beaver, but they're to be behind the building, not in front of the building. So those are some reasons why it's non-conforming. But the zoning ordinance permits the continuation of nonconformities and permits additions to nonconformities, provided the nonconformity is not expanded or increased. And our interpretation of the zoning ordinance is that this is not an expansion of a legal nonconformity. And the applicant's architect's here, and he can maybe speak to the thought process that went into why this project was conceived in the way it was. But we look at it as simply an addition to a nonconforming building, but again, the nonconformity is not being increased or expanded.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Faison.
Is it connected? Is it going to be connected to the existing building?
Yeah, there will be, let me go back. Probably shows it best here, Mr. Faison.
See, right.
This is existing building, this is Big Beaver in this location, existing building, this is side elevation of the proposed new building. There is a pedestrian connection here at the second level from the parking deck into the second level of the office building.
Okay. And then the second question, and I know the ZBA is going to deal with this, but the setback requirement is 40 and this is 0? It's right to the property line?
That's right, the property line is, yeah, so the outline, the general outline of the building is in the blue, and then this is where the property line is actually the edge of the building.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Yes, Mr. Krant.
The shared parking, could you bring up that shared parking slide again? That one. So I'm trying to orient myself to Big Beaver. Where is,
Yeah, so Big Beaver is
okay.
here.
Okay.
So here's where the building is, the office building is now, or bank building, office building. Here's the location of the new apartment, and then this is that behind it. It's to the back of the proposed apartment. The Drury Inn is basically this location and this general location here. So, I'll go here, Ariel. The shared parking is, this is where the shared parking is.
Okay.
So the apartment building's gonna be here. Shared parking is in this general location.
Thank you. It makes it much more clear. Thank you.
I actually have a question on this parking. Can you go back to the slide on the parking? So, what exactly are they asking? Are they saying that the city's requiring 359, but the shared parking is only going to provide 230, 192 which are on-site and 41 which are not? Or are they actually going to get to 359 if we allow shared parking?
No. So, but thank you. Good question for the clarification. By ordinance, the ordinance requires 359 spaces. That includes the required parking for the existing office bank building on the site, as well as the new apartment building. That's by ordinance. However, they're only able to provide 192 spaces on site, but there are an additional 41 parking spaces as part of a shared parking easement with that adjacent neighbor. So in total, they're able to allocate 233 total parking spaces of the required 359. So they're seeking relief for, what's that, 120, 125 spaces.
So it's two-pronged. They're seeking relief, and they're seeking an acceptance of the parking agreement.
Yes, with an easement.
Okay.
Yes.
And do we know any information about the building that they're sharing the parking with? To me, it looked like it was under construction, and they're building something there now, I think a hotel. So do we know what their needs are?
That's one of the questions that OHM raises, point two, is we need a better understanding of what 575 is the lot they're sharing with.
okay.
So the question is, we need to evaluate what's going on 575 to ensure that there's enough parking for that site as well.
Okay, so 575 right now is the Troy Inn Suites, the old Drury Inn.
575 is this whole entire site.
Okay,
So one of the questions OHM asks is, we need to know enough about what's going on 575 to ensure that they can allocate 25 or shared parking spaces with this site as well.
okay, thank you. Does anyone else have, yep, Mr. Buechner?
That was going to be my question, is I'm curious what the neighbor's going to say. It doesn't sound like we have that answer yet, but I'd be curious where that neighbor is. Will they, as this moves on, will they have a say, or?
I actually had a meeting with the neighbor today, And the neighbor indicated he fully supports this project, and they've got a relationship, and he's willing to work with this neighbor in any capacity related to parking moving forward.
Great.
Again, that's secondhand, but I did talk to him today. Chairperson Prakash, you had a statement, question, what's going on over here? So this restaurant, the name escapes me, I should know this, it's, every suburban community has one.
Pogo?
TGI Friday?
TGI Friday, thank you. It's getting demolished, and this existing hotel's being renovated. It's under renovation as we speak.
Okay. And I did a drive-by, and my understanding is that the entrance got moved back to where that L shape is. The entrance is moved back. Is that correct?
I looked at the plans months and months and months ago. I believe you're correct, yes.
Okay. And so it is going to be one hotel?
I think it's going to have two
Gonna be
flags.
two. Okay. Okay.
One of them is going to be Indigo, and the other one escapes me right now.
Oh, it's not going to be a Troy Inn, what it's called now?
Drury.
No, it's not.
They put a sign up that says Troy Inn.
Oh, really?
It's not the Drury anymore.
That could be the other name. the
Okay.
other Flag.
Does anyone else have any questions? Yep, Mr. Tagle.
This may not help this petitioner, but how did we calculate the required number of parking for efficiency units, one-bedroom units, and two-bedroom units?
So the ordinance is clear. The ordinance simply says efficiency requires one parking space per efficiency unit. Anything above, so one bedroom unit or above, requires 2 spaces per bedroom, or per unit.
Have you seen in your experience that those numbers are higher than what the norms are being?
They are, and we're evaluating that. We hear that often from every, residential developer that builds, especially multifamily, that the numbers aren't, realistic to what's actually that they need and what is realistic. And it's something that we're actually working with OHM to look at, evaluate, and come back to the Planning Commission.
Thanks.
Okay, I think and did you have something else, Mr. Sabadat?
No, I was just going to, so John Marusich is the project architect,
Okay.
and we didn't talk about this, but were you planning on standing at the podium and providing a narrative while the video ran, or are you just going to hang back?
That's a good question.
Would there be value in you
No.
walking us through this, as it's 5 minutes long?
That's fine. I mean, I can do that.
Okay, so
I can answer questions along the way.
I'm gonna bring it up, hit play, so while you can sign in so that we have a record, and then when you're ready, I'll hit play.
Can I preface a couple answers here? When it comes to the shared parking, the current owner of the Drury Inn, or whatever it's called now, is a partner with my developer in other projects. And so they have a very, let's say, friendly relationship. And I'm glad that they came by and talked to you, because he was going to write a letter for the opportunity of the ZBA, as well as you in another meeting, indicating that as such, that he's in total support of the project.
Okay.
So that's one thing. I just want to state, too, is that when it comes to the parking situation, when we say shared parking, that's one aspect of it. But the other aspect of it is the fact that the traffic engineers, both our traffic engineer, which was recommended by the Planning Commission.
Well, we don't recommend, but they have a
endorse.
reputation that's very positive.
Thank you for clarifying that. I'm sorry, scratch that from the record. Okay, I understand the issue. Okay, so thank you very much for clarifying that again for me. See, the concept here, as well as for this project, as well as any other project in the city, whether it's Troy or other projects, is the fact that during the day, there's a component of parking that's dedicated to the office use. And then there's a component of parking that's dedicated to the residential use in this case. Generally speaking, when one goes big, the other one is small. So part of the evaluation that the traffic engineers have worked together on is to determine that crossover of sorts, I'm being non-technical, okay, is adequate to meet the agenda. I personally actually took the pictures that was provided to our traffic consultant. So if you were to go there at 8 o'clock, there's hardly anybody in the parking lot. And then as the day goes on, there's more, and right around 5 o'clock, practically everyone's gone, okay? But that's generally speaking when people start coming home, okay? Now, in addition to that, and I think it was stated to a certain degree, is that the existing parking is never maxed out. I mean, it may be at the most maybe 60, 70% of the existing parking at midday. So the parking that's there now that was serving the office building really is never maxed out. And that building is full. We did a full assessment of the parking with there's some medical suites in there, there's a bank, you should note it, and the such. Now, the issue of the bank, I want to speak of that. I'm in total agreement with you on the bank. But the bank is a major tenant of the building, and the developer wants to maintain the status quo as such. And I understand your concerns, and the concerns of this gentleman here, I'm 100% with, okay? But to the degree that, you can only push a rope so much, to a certain degree, it's what it is. So I just wanted to address those issues up front, so we can look at the pretty pictures and talk about the project.
Can I ask one follow-up question?
Sure, absolutely.
Is there a long-term vision for recognizing that, great tenants are great tenants, so you want to keep that relationship, but moving forward, is there a vision for doing something else with that existing building?
The building itself?
Yes. Renovating it, tear down and rebuild, anything like that?
Well, the current owner of the building, who's also a developer and owner of other buildings, he actually moved his offices to the top floor. I think he's well-meaning to maintain a presence of that building as it is. And so I don't think there's any other intentions at this time to do so.
Can you explain your relationship then? I guess I'm a little bit confused.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry.
somebody else owns the current office building, but you own the property?
No.
So how's it going?
Let me back up.
Yeah.
Let me introduce myself.
Yes.
My name is John Marusic Architecture. I'm the architect for the project. I've worked with this developer on projects in Birmingham and elsewhere. I actually rent from him in Bloomfield. I'm in Bloomfield Hills, right south of the Eddie Merlot building, not the Eddie Murphy building. Okay, and so we work together on projects in Ann Arbor and other ways. Okay, so I'm not the developer.
Okay, I didn't even mean that. I knew you weren't the developer, but I guess we're talking about the development and the developer. So the developer who's proposing this, the applicant, is the owner of the office building?
That's correct, and his office
And his own
is
personal
in
office
the
is in
office
there?
building too. So he's
Okay. Because, some of those elevations that you showed didn't include that front part. And I didn't know if it was because there, in the future, it's not going to be there, or if you were just trying to show us what it would look like if that building wasn't there. It was unclear to me.
Well, I think in one of the pictures, or one of the elevations, there's an elevation look at the building between the existing building and the new building. It's really almost an unrealistic look. It's an elevation. I think if you have a chance to see the video,
Okay.
you get a little more liveliness out of it.
Yeah.
And then I can answer questions through the whole thing, but I can try to explain things along the way.
Yeah, that's great.
One more thing. Okay, sorry about this, but I want to get these off the top. Is that light, the decorative light that we were talking about, that is of question, that is actually not a direct light. That's a shadow light. The light is projected onto the wall behind. There's an existing building now. It's called the Art of Dermatology, which has right on 195 right across from Sedona. It actually has those very linear lights, but it has a sliver of light that projects out. Our particular project, when you take a look at the renderings, you'll see it doesn't project out. It's an indirect light. So I just want to make that clear when you see that. Okay?
Yeah. I think we're ready to see it, and then we
Right.
can ask you more questions when you're done.
Absolutely. All questions.
All right, here we go.
Okay, so this is approaching the building in a very unrealistic way because you can't enter the building this way. But nonetheless, we entered this way to give an illustration of wrapping around the building. So you see here the existing building is on the right, We call it the Darth Vader building. And then our projected project is, as you see it here. Now, we are seeking a variance for the 40 feet, but you notice it's not a total frontage. We have two sides that are recessed back 40 feet. So we have about 2/3 of the building that has a frontage. The cars you see there is part of the shared parking, but actually, those cars that are adjacent to the building are actually it's a very unique context of easement where it's a restricted easement. Only my developer can use those parking spaces. The other portion of it is a shared easement. As you see here, we dedicated our green space to a very lively and fun common area between the two buildings. And again, you see a little corner is cut out. And the cars, as you see, are part of the restricted parking. We, as stated by Ben, we tried to implement as much green roof space and otherwise. That's a green wall, by the way, on the back of the building. Tried to soften up the face that was projecting to the rear. This is a seed building. It's not a active roof. The top of the buildings are not active. The buildings down below are active, and they are all to be designed to be restrictive to water flow into the city system. More and more municipalities I'm working with are leaning that way for obvious reasons of storm water control. The lower levels have a walkout terrace. The upper levels are balconies. And we'll be coming into the connection between the buildings. You see we have the parking and we have a drop-off ramp. So people in the lower level parking, which is predominantly geared up to the office, people have access directly into the building in our covered roof. And when we get to the other point, you'll see that the office tenants have access to the building on the second level going to the plaza. There's our walkway, handicap accessible, ADA accessible, people walking in place.
Treadmill.
It's
So this particular area that we are seeing right now is a common space that even the office people
Yes.
will be able to utilize.
Yes, correct. You know, in a sense, this is their backyard, you know, very secured. And that it's an amenity feature, which I think that sets us apart from others, and other developments take place in a way that the Big Beaver District is set up to do. This is what we call as a prototype for a further development. I've done concepts for other business owners up and down the stretch to illustrate how this could be done. But Mr. Simon is somewhat of a visionary in the sense, here's your famous front drive-through. I'd love to turn that into a plaza up front myself.
Why is this not more prominent or pronounced?
Which one's that?
The entrance to the apartment complex.
Well,
It seems like it's secluded and.
the building isn't, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
This has been an incredible challenge to try to provide let's say, a pedestrian access way and a walkway that, number one, is you're just not walking alongside of a building. These are the lights I was telling you about. But also guides you from the street. Now, this is just the lay of the land, so to speak. We have this big 1960s building in the front, and we got to find a way to provide a walkway to the rear without losing parking, okay? So what we tried to do here is define it by, you can see the pedestrian scale lights, demarcations in the pavement, much more landscaping, arborvitaes, to the gentleman's credit, are very predominant here. And if you were to go to this site now, the floral and fauna is nowhere near to how we have it here. And, we have the bike storage here. These are visitor bikes. But we tried to, again, give this a feel of you could walk from the street. So at some point in time in the future, when Big Beaver is more fully developed and more, let's say, pedestrian friendly, then more and more of the activity of people walking will be there. We just happen to walk past a very stoic building, and it's a challenge. So I think we did the best. If you got some suggestions, I'm open to them, but right now I think we did the best we could. So in any event, this is our project.
Thank you. I mean, that video was incredible. It really helped. I want to start out by saying, thank you, because I think as the Planning Commission, we really appreciate developers who are willing to take a look at what's there and see what they can do with it in terms of being creative and innovative, and I think this is exactly that. So I commend you for that. I know it's a very challenging property. I drove over there today, and found it very challenging with the different elevations and driving around, and there's challenges for sure. That was helpful. I did have one question when you're circling the building on I believe it's the east side. I guess we'll start with the west side of the parking garage. There's sort of columns and you're seeing the cars, yet on the east side, you chose to have it just be a wall. Is there a reason why you didn't have it be an open sort of concept on both sides?
This isn't the only reason, but there's a significant grade change on the side where that Brazilian restaurant is.
Yeah.
And on this other side, it's more at a grade scale. People aren't really going to be seeing. That's not the reason. It's just a aspect of it. So good point.
I mean, it just doesn't look as nice when you see just it's a huge wall. I mean, my comment would be you'd have to put landscaping or make it green or open it up.
Next time you see this video, you'll see some changes.
Okay.
How's that? Okay.
I like that.
I like.
Okay, then I'm going to go on. Another concern I have with it is the primary entrance of that building, of the new building. You walk. I get it. The sidewalks from Big Beaver, but then you're basically entering, and I love the glass, but it's basically just it looks like a bank of elevators, and they're going up to live. To their apartments. By the way, are these rentals or are you selling these?
Rentals.
Okay. So my big concern, I get that it's non-conforming, and personally, I think I might be in the minority, but I actually like the office building architecturally. I think it's cool. I think it's unusual and different, and I'm good with it. But what I don't understand is if the long-term plan isn't to tear it down, and it's to maybe incorporate it and keep it and freshen it up, I'd like to see that primary entrance, because it's already non-conforming. That's the front of Big Beaver, and that could be your entrance in. And right now, presenting it to us with an old bank drive-through that's like neglected and it's out of use on a new development, I feel like something's got to be done with that.
I'm 100% with you.
Okay. So when you come back, it's going to be all renovated?
I wish I could say that, okay? I'm only as good as the powers that be allow me. Okay? And so to a degree that I can make those suggestions, and I don't know if Mr. Simon is watching tonight, okay, but you bring up some very good points of how we might be able to handle that situation. The issue, okay, is the drive-through. Let's talk academically, okay? The issue is the drive-through. I just happened to, just before coming over here, working with a adaptive reuse of a Rite Aid. All the Rite Aids are going away, okay? So what do you do with these buildings predominantly on the corner, okay? It's a very interesting problem, okay, academically. And so I'm working with a client who has one of these, and we're trying to do something with it. And so he has a drive-through for the Rite Aid that's grandfathered, okay? Now it's in Kiko Harbor, so it's not a problem there. But he wants to put a Starbucks there. So there's a lot more activity to that type of thing. And if these Starbucks, you can be in conformance to the drive-through parking requirement, but then they're parking out onto Woodward Avenue, okay, like they are in Royal Oak. So the thing, what I'm getting at here is that that's a bank drive-through, okay? My client sees that as an amenity feature for maintaining a bank. And, a lot of municipalities don't allow drive-throughs anymore. I think, like Mr. Savanant mentioned, they not only, they can be there, but they have to be in the rear of the building. So to the degree that we don't have a drive-through capability at the rear of the building. So that decision is motivated primarily on the fact that we're going to maintain that drive-through. So if we have a pedestrian walkway to the center of the building, which I can see, as you're stating, I can see how we could open that up, make that like walk into the building and do so. That I can visualize that architecturally. But then we'd be in contact with the traffic circulation of a drive-through, you see, and I would be standing in front of you today, and you or somebody else would be saying, where's the conflict here, you see? So when I'm saying one thing leads to another, it's a complicated issue. I would like to say that I will go back to my client and mention your concerns and give him a point of view about how we might be able to rectify that or come closer to it being something that it isn't currently.
Well, I would like to say if you're keeping it open as a possibility of a drive-through, then I do actually see a conflict even with the two sidewalks on either end, because cars are going to be entering the drive-through at a crosswalk and they're going to be exiting the drive-through at a crosswalk, which to me is a little bit concerning, and we'd have to look at pedestrian safety. So, it's a problem as a drive-through.
It's a problem either way you look at it,
Right.
and it's more complicated one type of location as opposed to the other. This particular bank is a very private bank. I've never seen anyone that drives through. I've been there many times. I just think it's there. So I'm just saying it's one of those private banks. It's not like it's a Chase or a Comerica where there's a lot of retail activity, okay? So I can state that, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's, it secures a confidence that no pedestrians are going to be in conflict. But right from the beginning, we had this conversation. Okay, my client and myself, as well as the planning people, okay, they were very forthright in giving their points of view in regards to this matter, and I'm in total agreement to that issue. But my client knows that too, by the way, okay? But, I can only do what I can do, okay?
Let me see if anyone else has questions. Yep, Ms. Malala Holly.
Brent, I don't know whether you're able to pull it up, but page 53 is where I am, which is the image of the entrance to the new proposed building, if you can pull that up. Yeah. So this is what the chairperson is referring to, and to a certain extent, I feel is your apartments that from 3 to 7 looks awesome, but your 1 and 2 needs a lot of addressing, because right here, this view looks like, there's a parking deck in the back. Does it tell that there are these apartments that you're trying to build, and there's niche place there, there's a gathering zone that you've created, which is so cool, a green wall that you're incorporating. I mean, there are so many nice features that you've added to that architecture there, but is this giving that all? I don't think so. And I'm not an architecture, but I'm seeing, why cannot this be extended farther down and provide a side entrance to your apartment building with a nice lobby frontage?
Okay. Point taken in regards to the discordant relationship of the apartment tower to the parking deck. Okay, I can work on that one. Okay. This is a good shot here to identify the challenge. The challenge is that those cars on the left front on the property line, okay? You have a two-way drive here, okay? Those two items are not going to go away, okay? So we could take the parking and put it on this side, but we'd be in conflict with other issues, you see? Again, the whole, as I stated in the beginning of my presentation, that the whole issue of how to have an identity to the building from the street past the large, dark building by itself is something, has been an incredible challenge. And so, as you see here, we accentuated the entry. We put the signage, this would be 363 East, the other one is 363 West. They'll be lit up at night so that people can follow that pathway. We have pedestrian. I could provide a video that shows what it looks like at night. It's not done here. But nonetheless, to do what you're saying, putting the entry on this side, okay, also puts it in a discordant location to where the elevator is in the building. See, in essence, we have the apartment building, okay? We set it back so we could have terraces on the lower level, okay? Then we have a corridor down the middle and the entry, the elevators are in the middle. So to put the entry to the side would then mean that they would come in there and then they would have to find a way over to where the elevators are to go up to the tower. So there's kind of a practical scenario there. I understand your situation, and like I say, we struggle with this and how to do this. And Brent and Ben, we've actually made quite a few presentations in front of them prior to coming here tonight, and to the degree that their concerns are very much where they are. They wanted that lobby to have more of a lobby on the lower level, even though the upper levels where everyone's going to congregate, no one's going to be sitting in the lobby reading a newspaper, no matter what. You see, you know. So I mean, I'm just saying that I feel for you and what you're saying, and I totally agree. But as it shakes out, I think the real thing I can identify is bringing the parking structure a little more designed in accordance with the apartment above.
In your last statement, you mentioned that the drive-through was not really being used. I guess this question is more to Brent. Brent, can a bank building exist within Troy without a drive-through access?
You'd have to ask a banker. I mean, a banker's probably going to tell you no.
Because who goes to the banks nowadays?
Well,
I mean, the percentage of population is reducing. Do we still need to?
All I can tell you right now is that that's considered a very valuable asset, okay, to this property and to the bank. My developer is also he owns a bank.
Okay.
Not totally, but partially, okay? And so he's a banker mentality. And understandably so, okay? I mean, look, these are all positive assets I think he brings to the project here, because he actually has the ability to do something. And to the degree you see, he's allowed this particular type of freedom or creativity to achieve the goal. But then, you know, he's a businessman as well, and he's a lawyer, and he's a banker, and he's a developer. So that parking, the drive-through is probably going to stay until that bank leaves. And ever since I've known it, there's always been a bank on that site, okay? And if that bank leaves, another bank will come in, because they're very valuable locations in a very dynamic business atmosphere, as you see here. I've tried in Birmingham to try to put a drive-through in various locations up and down Woodward Avenue. And I've hid them inside buildings, and I've done all sorts of things, okay? And just didn't work, okay, with the planning commission. See, so it's a very restricted situation, you know, to say the least. There's certain parts of even Detroit they don't allow drive-throughs. Not necessarily banks, any type of drive-through, and they're very restrictive. And so the whole concept you're talking about, it's a dinosaur, okay, but it's there. I mean, who banks at a bank anymore? Anyway. Anyway, I'm just making commentary here.
Thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it.
Mr. Tagel's got some questions for you.
I don't know if I have any questions. I just want to share with you, from my perspective, the challenges that have been faced and I think solved fairly well. We don't always see, as planning commissioners, what goes into design and what drives the design to get us to the end product. I think, quite honestly, let's look at this project in context of Big Beaver. Yes, when I turn into the driveway off of Big Beaver, that's what I'm going to face. And maybe the color could be lighter and it doesn't look so dark. But let's think about driving down Big Beaver. What are you going to see? You're not even going to see that building in front. You're going to see those towers that are very vibrant with the colors and the striations of the two different vertical panels. So I think the identification of that building, the punch of that building is going to be seen long before you turn into the driveway. Turning into the driveway is, you know, it is what it is. And I support what he said about a lobby. If I live there, the lobby is only a means, it's a transitional space. I need to get up to whatever floor I live on, and that's it. I'm not staying in the lobby. I might pick up my mail from the mail room or whatever, but it's transitional. So why make it more than it needs to be? It's like a corridor. It gets you from point A to point B, but you don't stand around in a corridor. So I think what I've seen here, by the way, you've done a very nice job on this project.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate it. And some of the things you've...
My associates are watching on TV right now, so okay, they're
You need to get
very
a
happy.
raise.
I hope, okay.
Now tell that to your client.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
Oh, they've presented some concepts that we haven't seen here in Troy. This third-level garden.
Yep.
These terraces, these aren't balconies. Did you see the size of the terrace? I mean, you can really have a small party out there. So I think there's a lot of amenities that this project brings to the table with the constraints. I know the chair thinks the building up front is nice, whatever. You know, it's a 1960s.
Yeah,
or
late
whatever it is
60s,
building.
Lukenbach Ziegelman, I know the architect.
Yeah, it's a dark and it's there. Can't do anything about it really, and it's the sense that the client that's doing the development in the back also owns this building, so it's not like, you know, we can get rid of it. So I just think, you know, again, I understand the concept or the ideas that you're putting out there. I think the green wall is a great feature. Can we soften that elevation? Maybe a little bit, but I think conceptually, this is a very good project, and I think it solves challenges that are found on this site to do something like that. So I you know, again, assuming we can get through the variance process and, you know, the parking, again, you know, it's unfortunate that our ordinance hasn't quite caught up to, you know, what parking standards are for multi-use or multi-story buildings, but it is what it is. So.
It is what it is, but I think you have to have visionaries on this board. You have to have visionaries at that side table there. And you have to have very significant traffic people. Our traffic engineer, she's extremely, let's say, understanding of the value. And then there's just the practical, you know, when you stand up in that fourth floor looking down at noon and you see how many cars are actually there in the full building, then you realize there's just a practicality situation. You know, if this was Ann Arbor, no parking requirement. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's the case, okay? I have a project waiting in Berkeley, for the parking to be changed by the City Council on Planning, and it's on the way. They're going from 2 parking spaces per any type of apartment unit to 1.25. And when that happens, you're going to see an explosion of development, okay? And that happened in the Triangle District in Birmingham. You see, it was very restrictive. They've reduced it, explosion of development. And a lot of it has to do with the parking. To the credit of the long-term master plan of Troy, when I found out about the master plan having the ability to build in that parking lot, this concept was brought to the developer Frank Sam's attention 7 years ago. I did a concept, look what you can do here, okay? And so I think when it catches on, I think you're going to see more of a balance of residential living to the apartments that are there. I think these people are hungry to have the ability to drive a very short distance in order to have access to a living mode of the size. You know, these aren't large, okay? But this fits a certain mode of demographic that wants to live closer rather than, you know, Berkeley, okay, or Ferndale, or Royal Oak, okay? So I think that again, this is just me as the architect wanting to say that I think you're going to see a lot more of this taking place, okay? And I think that it'll be a very exciting opportunity. And those other buildings and those other sites are going to meet similar challenges. as this one has. And there's going to be different people having different perspectives. I guarantee you, in 2 or 3 years, I might have a whole different way of solving this problem, okay? But right now, we're kind of like at a forefront of seeing how we could develop Troy. I mean, my office is I live right in my office, and I live in Birmingham. My office is in Bloomfield, right in the same corner there. I mean, this is an exciting area, Birmingham, Bloomfield, Troy. I don't think there's anything else like it in this metropolitan area. You could go to Ann Arbor, it's a whole different thing, but, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure, this is an exciting project. I mean,
Well,
it's very different and creative, and like I said, innovative, and we welcome that, and I'm happy that you've taken the time to do that. We got a bunch of people who want to talk.
Sure, no problem.
I'm going to start with Mr. Buechner.
You were asking for our 2 cents. We love the innovative. I love the innovative, what you're looking at there. I think it's great. We asked the question about the drive-through. I'd like to think with signage, speed bumps, I'd like to think there'd be ways to make that safer. So I'm hopeful. We talked about the parking. 125 parking spots isn't small, but you know what you're doing. And I'm going to leave it at that. I don't need your comment from me. My question was, during the construction, we were asked to ask you, how would you handle parking during that probably a couple years worth of construction?
Well, yeah, that's one of the few points I was going to address before the video, okay? That hotel that's being renovated in the rear, okay, it's not being added to. You're right, there's 2 flags. It's a large hotel, and the restaurant's going down, okay? So I think what we're going to do, it may, and I can't speak to this specifically, but you're right, there's a whole logistics of how this thing's being built. Okay, one logistic is built 1 tower at a time. Okay, we built a tower in the parking deck, and then we switch over to the other side. So there's a staging area for the first tower, then to whatever. I can't speak to that specifically, but it's going to be an issue, and I think that when it goes to the building department, they're going to ask those questions. And I have a project on hold right now in Birmingham because the site that's going to be developed is being used now for the staging of the building that's being built right next door. So we're on hold. We're just waiting for it to be done. So now we have a challenge of how to handle that. So here's the thing. In urban developments, see, you're emerging from a suburban community to a certain degree to an urban community. How do they do in Chicago? How do they do in Philadelphia? How do they do it in New York? Wow. Wow, those are very significant challenges. It's going to take another level of sophistication to address that issue. And I think that the fact that we have this shared parking opportunity in the rear and allows us some latitude, see? And there's going to be a lot of logistics when it comes to something like this. Trucks are going to be coming, materials are going to be coming. At one point, we were looking at the possibility, it has been totally removed from the table, is modular housing. These towers could be put up in, 1 tower could be put up in 2 weeks. Okay, but that's one opportunity. See, it's being done, it's not here in Detroit, it's being done it's done. There's 10 buildings in Traverse City that they have. These things go up like this. Nothing. It's just pop, 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 pop. Okay. It's been looked at whether that takes place, but that will reduce the amount of construction time by almost half. Okay. Because then it just means that, and the parking deck itself could be pre-cast concrete pieces, just lifted and plopped in place as opposed to cast in place. So there's building technology opportunities that would help to reduce that. As you are aware of, some of you know building, that the construction loan by itself is a significant high interest. You know, if you're able to cut that construction loan down by half, then you're saving significant money. So those things are looked at. I'm just trying to get past this.
Well, you also have the Fogo de Chao on your east, which is probably only open at dinner, and perhaps you could.
Oh yeah, well, I was going to mention that, but that hasn't been approached.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that I feel like you have options available. They have an empty parking lot right next door.
We would have to lease space. We'd have to get very, permits and certificates from, you guys, okay, into as one part of the process. But, you're all built now in Troy. Now the fill-in is what's going to be forthcoming.
Mr. Faison.
Thank you. I like the design as well. My main question was the one Mr. Beekner just asked, but I have a second question. Just the patio versus the terrace. And I was just curious, you have the large patio with the small terrace right on top of it. And that just seems to be somewhat in conflict. So I was curious, is that a
You mean
design
having
that
someone
you
in the balcony up above looking down at you?
Right, you have a big group and then there's someone up above. It just,
Urban living.
yeah.
Okay, I mean, I have a project
I've seen
down.
the-
No,
obviously
I'm not
the-
saying that to be smart, okay?
Terraces on top of each other, but just a big patio.
Yeah.
The terrace on top of it.
A
Is that a
project-
unique design?
Well, if you go to the Pearl in Birmingham, you know where the Tim Hortons is? You know, where the two rows come together?
yeah.
Okay, well, you'll see that terrace concept there, okay? And I tell you right now that people love that. But the person up above looks directly down on the person down below, you know, I mean,
And if you don't like it, you don't have to buy that unit or rent that unit. So
I'm glad you said that.
Or
not
you
me.
can invite him to the party.
That's true.
Mr. Tagle.
I just wanted to mention something. There's a project done in Chicago where the balconies were positioned so that you saw your neighbors. So it wasn't such a silo that you could look either down or across. And I think that really, at least as it was presented, as I understood the project, was to develop camaraderie amongst your neighbors. So it's not like we have in our suburbs where you drive into your garage, you open the garage door, you drive in, you close your, you never see your neighbors, okay? But this gives you an opportunity to maybe to have a little bit more of a relationship with the folks around you.
Let me comment on that, because see, that again, I had a lot of this type of discussion in Birmingham in early days is that, you know, they're emerging from a residential community into an urban community, at least the certain development cores. This is the same situation. And when you're in, you know, New York or other places, yeah, it's a whole different lifestyle of people. In fact, they'll probably be attracted to go to that place. And you wouldn't be attracted to go. I had one person, name not to be said, who just told me flat out right in a project in Birmingham, who would live there, you know? And I said, well, maybe someone who's 25 years old, not you, who, you know, and we know each other, but he was being a little, you know, we have a banter. I appreciate opening up to you guys and you opening up to me. You know, I hope we keep the temperament as it is.
Secrets are safe here.
Yeah, okay, all right, but, you know, again, but you're right, it's an urban context, okay? You have some projects that are further down east you have that rooftop deck up there. I don't know if that's in Troy. It may not be in Troy, but there's a roof deck and a community deck up above. It took a period of time where Birmingham now allows community decks and access to the community deck. And occupying it's not considered an extra floor to their zoning ordinance because they want to promote that. So in any event, I don't know if that answered your question specifically.
You did.
Okay. I have a tendency to roam off, okay?
Mr. Fox?
So to echo a lot of the feedback you've been giving, I think this is a great build. I think it's very innovative. I think the third floor green space, amazing. Because I like this build, I want to talk a bit about the variance. I take it that you're a developer who's been around the block a couple of times. Have you guys kind of brainstormed where you're going to take the variance? I'm also the liaison to the ZBA.
I heard that earlier.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, like, what have you guys brainstormed your practical difficulty argument?
Well, okay, you know, off the record, of course, we're on the record, being recorded and being taped, okay, so, you know.
You, me, and the rest of the city.
You know, I've sat in a number of different communities, most recently in Berkeley, most recently in the metropolitan area where, you're going to have to get a variance. Almost every project I've been involved with, I hate to say this, you know, I've had to somehow get a variance to push the limits of opportunity, okay? Now, your 5 criteria are the same 5 criteria in Hamtramck, same 5 criteria in Clawson. They're the same 5 criteria, and they're very restrictive. I mean, if I could get like one of those, I'd be a lucky guy, but I got to get 5 of those, okay, according to your criteria. So, you know, all commentary aside, why do you even just say here, you see, what I'm going to present is an argument for innovation, okay, I'm going to present an argument that states that inasmuch as I understand through the education of Brent and Ben why that 40-foot was there, okay, I'm going to indicate to them that I have provided certain opportunities that allow that 40-foot not to be let's say, a program element. You know, we have a high ceilings in the parking deck. Our dump trucks can go through, the fire trucks can go through. So we provided an alternative condition, okay, that I know was the good intent of the zoning ordinance to begin with. But if I can offer you or others a way that, for the most part, we're satisfying those concerns in the spirit of the concern, not the letter of the concern, okay? You know, the owner of the building behind us, I know he's a friend of the current developer, but he has no problem with the fact that this issue is here. And then I've, you know, softened up the building with a green wall. So you're not looking, I mean, I could have a 40-foot wall 40 foot away, or I can have a green decorative wall right there, okay? Now, the parking that's adjacent to that building is very unique, as I told you before. It's a restrictive parking easement, meaning only the owner of this building can use it, okay? So in a sense, I already have a 10-foot grass area and a 20-foot parking area that, you know, and it's not a legal boundary, border, you know, the line, but it's, in effect, is, to a certain degree. That road that's behind there is a shared access easement. So to the degree that we, that's part of it, okay? And it's not like I put a big 300-foot wall along the edge. I did recess portions of it back to soften that issue up. So I'm going to be, you know, presenting those issues, and I'll probably think about a few more because I'll be more prepared, okay? But I got a zoning variance in Hamtramck. They have right now 30-foot easements, 30-foot setbacks in the back in Hamtramck. You go to Hamtramck, you're like, oh my God, they're all over the place. Well, there's no 30-foot easements. New construction, new projects such as this, they say we want a 30-foot because every time it rains, it floods the streets, okay? So we want that 30-foot of grass to absorb it. Well, what I did is that I got a 17-foot variance. Why? Because I put swales in there. It's all engineered. I put pervious pavers in the driveway, in the public way. We're going to be replacing the public with pervious pavers. And I got a green roof that is engineered to accept as much of the water. So when you look down at my project, it's all green. You're not, everything that was there before the development is there now, okay? Well, ZBA was 5, we got unanimous because I had an argument, which I think was more of a benefit to the city than restrictive to the city. There was another point to that.
See in your case.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you for the opportunity to exercise my argument.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Morrow. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Lambert.
Just first, I like your design. It looks very innovative, and I think it'll be an enhancement to the Big Beaver corridor. As a retired credit union person, I can tell you that in a suburban community, you got to have a drive-through. I would just prefer, if you could move it somewhere else, it'd be great. But to echo Mr. Biegner's comments, to enhance pedestrian safety, some traffic humps or something along that line would be very useful. But otherwise, those are my comments.
These gentlemen have been telling me a lot of things, and the traffic consultant has told us a lot of things about the interior and movement around there. So I think that those comments are good, okay? We don't want people racing down there. Speed bumps would be very helpful. Why not put them in, okay? So thank you.
So just to sort of summarize, because you're just here for feedback, I just want to make sure, I mean, did anyone have any issue with that outdoor wall sconce, or are we good with that? No, it's fine. I mean, I like the light, so that's good. I would like to see, though, in your next, when you come back, elevations that show context from the surrounding buildings. So you're really
you want a wider view?
Yeah, so we need, especially with the new building.
So you want me to show more of the parking lots that exist?
Well, the parking
I'm
lots
joking with you. I understand exactly.
The reason I bring it up
No,
is
no, I
because
understand.
you've indicated that the hotel to your south to your south approves of the project, this building is going to be 7 floors right now up on the property line, and their lobby now is pretty close. So I want to know what that view is.
Sure.
And that's part of the application process. We need to see in the context of its surroundings where 75 is by where the other buildings are. So if you could do that.
Believe me, my staff who is listening right now, they're just like, wow, great, I'll do it.
Okay.
They would do a model of the whole world if I let them do it.
And then just to give an example, could you pop up page 78 real quick? And this is just like one little example.
Sure.
For example, it looks to me from this view that cars are allowed to come and between those two people. Because I see an arrow on the ground. So you would need to show us that you have a crosswalk there, a striped crosswalk for people. So I'd like to see the circulation plan with those kind of details, so we understand the movement. Because that's going to be necessary for us to approve this, right?
Sure.
So circulation plan.
So pedestrian circulation and pedestrian safety, beyond which I've already demonstrated. And look, there's no limit to it. I'm sure we
Yeah,
could do
that,
further.
and also
Okay.
car circulation, if you're going to make any of those parking spots angled or whatever, just to explain the circulation coming in off Big Beaver, because some of your 3D renderings showed an entrance that really doesn't, you know what I mean? Just make it more accurate. And then finally, the traffic analysis. Sorry, I don't know why I said traffic analysis. I meant parking analysis.
Well, it's the same thing. The traffic engineer did the parking
Okay,
analysis.
the parking analysis, be prepared to show us, I mean, it was interesting to hear tonight that the building is 100% occupied and only using 60% of the spaces. Perfect. That's great data. And then to be complete though, in order to approve that, we do have to know what's going on that other adjacent lot that you're sharing them with, because we need to know how many spots do they need. And we can't really make a decision unless we have that information. So, when you do that, please have that information.
Okay, well,
as
here, I mean, I even earlier on, I thought it might be prudent to ask the traffic engineer to come and make her educated professional case of what it is, because I can speak in general about it, but she can speak specifically about the issue, and maybe even make a presentation to that effect. You can maybe even see some of my photographs I took about the parking lot.
Well, I mean, normally when we do this, we actually get something in our packet which shows that this is what's required for that building. This is what.
Sure.
So we need. I didn't see that in this packet,
Well,
and I
then-
get it. We're not making a decision, but I'm just letting you know
No,
when you come
I
back.
want you to tell me these things so that I come
It'll
next
make-
time a
yeah,
little
so
more
we're
prepared.
prepared.
So I'll just say that there may be an aspect of the presentation next time which includes the parking/traffic study. And I can then also try to address some of the issues that were brought up today in regards to that matter, pedestrian as well as traffic. Okay? And again, I'll make the parking structure a lot less of a parking structure.
Yeah, that wall on the
Okay.
east side. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
understand.
Does
And-
anyone else want to add to the list, or?
I just have
Yeah, go ahead.
two quick comments. So this is one of the pictures too that I was looking at. Right now, as you see there, yes, it is daylight, so there is light coming in quite a bit. But I would like to see more lighting in this space, especially because this is a transitional space. You never know who's using your drive-through at 10 o'clock in the night, and you don't want pedestrians walking to their apartment complex or just taking a walk down their dog for a walk. I don't think this lighting is enough. I would like to see something, if it is,
Sure.
if at all, something like this is possible, like have those embedded in your road system so that there is some kind of lane indication. I don't know, those are just thoughts.
No, these are very valid comments. And see, everything you're talking about, we would eventually do deeper after this stage.
Yes,
See,
yes.
I mean, what I've come to find out, and I understand the value of that, is that the planning reviews are very extensive. I practically have to design all aspects of the building, then hand it over to some guy to do the construction drawings. But nonetheless, I understand the value of it, because these are critical comments that I want to incorporate in to make it a better, I see all the values of what you're saying, but anyway, I can see a lot of it.
Yes, since we don't have too much of, and Troy is now becoming a lot more urban, at least in these areas, as you rightfully pointed. So when we are creating and transitioning into this newer way of living with congested spaces, but still allowing people to have this multi-mobility levels of interaction, we just want to make sure that safety also, and light, safety, visibility, all
Life
of
safety
those-
and visibility.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay?
All of those things are kept in mind. And this is an off comment that I'm going to make, but since we're talking about this whole entire area here and the building that sits in the front is going to be preserved because it's being used right now and it's a very viable building for you, is there any way you can soften that building in terms of maybe drop a few loads of paint on it and kind of bring it to the same color scheme? I'm just throwing it out there. It's too dark. The one that you are proposing is nice and light. Is there some kind of a...
Isn't it ironic that this building is right across the street from Children's Hospital? I mean, there's such a dichotomy there. I mean, I've often, you just hit it, okay, right there. I mean, that building was a very innovative design in the late 60s when probably there was no other building around, okay? But nonetheless, let me just hold that in the back of my mind about what that could be, okay? That's all I can
Thank
tell you, but thank you for sharing that, okay?
Thank you very much for coming today and
No more?
sharing all this with us.
Okay? All right.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Cron.
Oh, Mr.
So, John, getting back, if we could get that page 53 back up. I've got two ways to look at the entrance to to the apartments. One way is saying, well, this is a private place. This is not a place we want to announce to the general public to come in. Why should we make it grand? You know, hey, it's not that we want to shoo people away, but it's like, hey, this is private property. We don't need, a lot of big estates have walls and gates. That's all you see from the road. You don't see even the building at times. So that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is, this is a spectacular project. I really love it. Why, and again, you already addressed that lower couple levels, the parking area. We can bring it into the same type of coloration, et cetera, of the big towers to make it look like, oh, this is part of it. You're not just going into a parking structure as the main entrance. So those are my two comments. It's just, you could look at it either way. I prefer a little more welcoming than this. But if people like privacy and they don't want to welcome people, you got it right there.
More and more cities are wanting to connect whatever it may be to a pedestrian bicycle way, okay? And I see the vision of what that is, okay? Because ultimately that's going to emerge, okay? So this, I think you again, another little bit dichotomy. You want some privacy. This has privacy in the back of it's in the back. So if you are intending to, it's not like this is a pedestrian way that anyone's just going to walk. If you're walking, you're going to walk to go into that building, which only has side entrances and one back entrance. Those are the main entries, not a front entrance, which is you would like, all of us would like. So I'm going to take this to another level of development based upon everyone's input, and we'll see how if I hit the green, okay, at least, so I could put it in while I'm here, okay? I'm not a golfer, by the way, okay? Okay?
Yep, thank you very much.
All right, we're all set? Thank you very much as well. This was, I appreciate this work session of sorts, okay? Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
All set, guys? Okay, all right. Thank you.
All right. So we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the preliminary site plan review. You're going to leave,
Mr. Buechner's recusing himself,
Okay.
I believe.
You should probably announce it.
Yeah, I
on
thought
the
you were-
record, shouldn't you?
Want to just announce it real quick that you're...
Should I announce it or do you want?
Yeah, I thought you were going to. I was looking over to see if you were going to interrupt. Excuse me.
I didn't know the right etiquette,
Wait,
so
where'd he go?
apologize.
No, that's fine. So
This is my business, so I'm going to step out.
so you're going to
Recuse
recuse
myself.
yourself from this item. Okay. You're supposed to take us going.
Don't forget your coat.
Well, he can come back. Yeah, come back.
All right, okay.
Mr. Hudson's in charge. Of the code.
Of the code, okay. So preliminary site plan review, SP JPLN 2025-0006, proposed Slick City Action Park, Troy, east side of Crooks, north of Maple. Address is 1820 Crooks and 1749 Northwood. Section 28, currently zoned Maple Road District and in IB, Integrated Industrial and Business District. And I believe Mr. Carlisle is going to present.
Yes, thank you. So again, another unique creative site and creative project here in front of us. The subject site is actually two parcels. One's abutting Crooks and one's abutting Northwood. The Northwood parcel has an existing building on site that's approximately 26,000 square feet. And the Maple Road, the Crooks Road site is actually used for storage and parking. We do note that if approved, the two sites will be consolidated into one parcel. The site has split zoning. The Northwood site is zoned IB and the Crooks site is zoned Maple Road zoning. It's a mix of Maple Road and IB in that area, and again, it's a kind of eclectic mix of a variety of light industrial, some commercial, and other type uses. So the site arrangement is the applicant plans to renovate the existing 26,000 square foot building. It's the building located, it's this building right here. They're going to renovate that building and add an 11,000 square foot addition that's fronting towards Crooks Road. In addition, they're going to clean up the existing site on Crooks, renovate the existing parking lot and create some additional parking. They're going to update all the site landscaping. They're going to update all the site lighting. They're going to add sidewalk and pedestrian site improvements, as well as provides for stormwater management on the site. The use of the property is going to be for Slick City. It's an indoor slide and air court park. There are 7 locations currently in the country. There are 17 under construction and there are 37 under review. So it's a fast-growing business, and these are just a couple of the pictures of the interior of what the use would be. Access to the site is in 2 different points. There's a direct access off Northwood that exists. The primary access is going to be off Crooks Road, and you can see there's a shared access with the northern parcel. And again, a secondary access point would be off Northwood. With regards to parking, they are required to have 40 parking spaces based on the use, and I will note that by our ordinance, indoor commercial recreation is a very low intensity parking use. It doesn't really account for differences between different types of indoor commercial recreation. It's pretty flat line of just a very low intensity parking use. The applicant is providing 128 spaces, and we had some discussion with them about why they need that additional parking over above the ordinance. And they gave us 2 reasons. One, the applicant has experience running gymnastics facilities in Troy, as well as Slick City's experience in other locations. They think that they need the 128 parking spaces to accommodate what their use of the site's going to be. One of the issues we do note with parking is they're providing some new parking along the southern property line. The southern property line, that is only 17 feet in length. So the length of these spaces is only 17 feet. So essentially 2 feet of that overhangs into the neighbor's property to the south. We are asking that they obtain an easement with the neighbor to the south, sort of to overhang parking to allow for that. We understand the applicant is working with the property owner to the south to obtain that easement. We do note they are deficient in one parking lot space, and we note that there are, however, we do note that 9 of the required 16 spaces are actually located outside of the parking lot. We do find that there are opportunities to add additional
Do you mean trees?
tree. Sorry, what did I say?
Space.
Tree. I'm a tree. One parking lot tree. We do note that 9 of the 16 trees are located outside of the parking lot itself, and so these areas I've kind of indicated with these little green blobs are areas where they could add additional trees to comply with the location of the required trees from our ordinance. In addition, they did not provide trash enclosure screening details, and they did not clarify the location of the mechanical equipment. The primary building material is a masonry block on the lower level with metal siding above. The proposed colors include a light and kind of dark blue. We do note that this is the Maple Road form-based district, so there are transparency requirements for that front elevation. They are required to provide 30% of transparency. We do note that they're seeking an alternative, So 17 of the 30% is transparency, and that 13% to make up that 30, they're asking for an alternative through variations of material and architectural variation. The standards for site plan are listed above. Ensure compatibility to existing commercial district and provide transition. Incorporate best recognized architectural practices and enhance the character, environment, and safety for pedestrians and motorists. So overall, we do support the development of the site, and the applicant is repurposing an existing building and a desired use in the community. However, as part of the deliberation, the Planning Commission should consider the parking waiver. It's actually not a parking waiver, it's a parking relief, essentially. The location of the parking lot trees and the use of transparency alternatives. If the Planning Commission does approve the preliminary site plan, we suggest the conditions that they consolidate the lots, they obtain a parking easement with the neighbor to the south, they added one additional parking lot tree, they provide trash enclosure details, as well as clarify location of the mechanical equipment. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Carlisle? Yep, Mr. Faison.
I had one question on the parking lot trees. You had a image, right, with the green islands. So I was curious if they would accommodate the trees, if the trees could be put in the lot without losing spaces.
No, they'd have to lose, so again, they're, by ordinance, they're well overparked. By their need,
right.
they claim they need that many parking spaces. So, I mean, if you put in the trees I note here, they would lose one, two, 5, 7, 8 or 9 parking spaces. So you may not need to put all of these in, but you could put a couple in, but yes, they would have to lose some spaces.
Okay, that was my only question.
Any other questions, or should we, Ms. Malala Holly?
Thank you. Mr. Carlisle, just a clarification I seek. Can this property only have 2 entrances from Crooks Road, and does it require another rear entrance from Northwood?
The fire marshal would like a secondary access off of Northwood.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Because right now, as the site's oriented, Northwood is the entrance to the site.
Yes.
They are rotating for a more commercial presence to have it on Crooks.
I guess my question also is directed towards where you have the red shaded area in terms of how the parking can be an inhibiting factor in cars coming in and out, because it's going to be jutting out of that parking.
Well, I mean, we do allow 17-foot spaces if it overhangs a green belt. So if this was his property, those parking spaces would be legal. But the fact is, he's overhanging into somebody else's property. He has to obtain an easement to allow for the overhang. So the 17 spaces, cars will not overhang into the drive aisle, but overhang into someone else's parking lot or someone else's property line.
Yeah, Mr. Savana?
You'll notice from the aerial, these are existing spaces here. They're there today. So,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
finish.
so it's used today. They're 17 foot long. They're presently overhanging. But now he's asking for preliminary site plan approval for something that's going to be a more intense use. So now's our opportunity to kind of make it right. If he's proposing to overhang, proposing to get an easement, if he doesn't get the easement, that 24-foot wide drive aisle now becomes less than 24 foot wide, which is not ideal. So another example, there's two Mr. Marusic said earlier, he stated that we're built out. Well, we're not quite built out, but we're pretty darn close to build out. And we've got challenges like this with existing buildings. The earlier one, we have an existing building with some challenges that we deal with. This one's got an existing building, existing site conditions that we deal with. We try to be flexible, but also get better development, get improvement, make sure it's safe, accessible, et cetera. So this is another example how we're trying to be flexible to move this forward.
I have a question about this parking, because to me it seemed a strange way to put it, that it was going to overhang onto someone else's property. To me, the more obvious response is they're going to park and they're going to be they're going to shrink the aisles. Why would you assume someone would drive over into someone else's property? Like overhang. I didn't understand
The
that.
edge of this drive aisle
Yeah.
is right on this is the property line.
Yeah.
So the car, when you pull up, your car will overhang this property line. So the curb line is right,
The
the
curb.
curb line's adjacent to the
Curb
property
up to a
line.
curb, and you're
Yeah,
borrowing
just
2
to-
feet over the property line.
There's an existing building on the neighboring property.
Yeah, okay.
There's a minimum setback requirement, so the neighbor to the south can't build any closer, it's there, but it's his property, that cars are gonna be temporarily parked over his property.
Okay, okay.
And then the car's gonna be gone, and there's gonna be no overhang.
Right, okay, all right. You're saying because he's going to pull his tires up and the car's going to stick over the curb.
And that's, the ordinance allows that. Now, if this was his property, there would be no issue, the 17 feet is fine. It's the fact that he's physically, the cars will physically overhang into somebody else's property. He has to get an easement for that, to be able to allow for that.
Okay. I mean, would one solution be to put all those parking spots on an angle?
He could, but he would lose
He'd lose a couple spots.
spots.
Okay.
He'd lose spots and it would become a one-way.
Right.
Oh, yeah, right, it would become a one-way. Okay. Yes, Mr. Lambert.
Which is the, in your report, Mr. Kyler, you said one of the aisles has to be widened. Is it the one that goes off of Northwood?
It's this one right there. This one here,
Oh, okay, all right,
just gotta add 2 feet to it so that
okay,
fire truck can have access to the building.
all right, thank you.
And so while we're looking at that, can you tell us a little bit more about the private drive? And right now, we talked about one entrance off that drive on Crooks into the parking lot, but really it's showing you can enter between all those trees 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that accurate? Is that drive really go all the way along the parking lot so you can enter in 4 different spots?
Well,
And
it's not, right now, it's not curved, it's a pretty open.
Giant dirt.
So it's kind of dirt, it just kind of, you can go all the way to this point. So if you look, these entrances actually align perfectly with the drive aisles. So if they did close these off, they would have to put a drive aisle in this location and lose additional parking. So the point is to keep the point of why they have 4 is to keep these access to all these different drive aisles.
So just explain to me a little bit that road. Who owns the road? Is it
It's
going
a
to be?
shared, there's a shared access easement that runs this entire length for both these particular parcels.
And they share responsibility for that road in terms
Not
of
a-
paving it,
Yeah, it's,
plowing it.
yeah, yes,
And so it's in existence.
existing easement.
Okay. Are we ready to invite the applicant up? Okay. Come on up, sign yourself in and let us know who you are.
Good evening, Steve Auger with Auger Klein Aller Architects. This project is one of Mr. Buechner's rehabilitation of an existing underused industrial building, and I think it's an exciting project. I didn't know anything about Slick City, and now I can't wait to give it a try. But so the basic concept is to use an existing industrial building and then add on to a little higher building, and that's actually for clearance of the big slides of the fun stuff. So I think some of the questions about parking, I think is the biggest hang-up here, and some of our math indicates, in coming from the facilities side of it, is one of the unique things about this is it's actually a scheduled, appointment-driven thing. So they come in at 90-minute intervals. So it's kind of like if you think about going to church or something like that. There's an incoming group and an outgoing group, and so the overall, your underlying zoning ordinance, we feel needs to be beefed up. And their facilities people tell us the same, that there's going to be a transitionary kind of happening in that parking lot. So with regard to that, with regard to the existing parking that's non-conforming, I know Mr. Buechner has approached the neighbor. We have the legal written up for that. He's in support of it. He has no problem with it because that's what they're doing right now. They park. They overhang his property. He can't build on it. So it's really pretty much a no-brainer. So, and anything else that?
Not good.
Yep, Mr. Krant.
So the shared drive off of Crooks, is that currently, will it be paved eventually? Or is it, what's the condition of that drive now all the way to the end of the property?
Well, we have our civil engineers here with us. He might be able to address that a little better, but we are just responsible for what's there in gray, that is, you know, up to the existing easement. We're not proposing any new curb cut or anything onto Crooks Road there.
No, I know, but that length of that drive from Crooks Road all the way to that purple building, or at least the last access drive into that parking lot, is that going to be paved? Is that paved now, or is that?
It's paved now.
It's paved now?
Yep.
Okay, and is it, I realize that you wanted 128 parking spots, I think it was, it's not on that slide, but will adding the extra trees and a few islands in the existing parking lot, let's see, you've got 128, if let's say, I don't know, 6 to 8 of those parking spots were removed for trees, is that going to make it so that the function of that building is no longer, you can't do it, you can't?
No, we're only short one tree
Okay.
on the site. So, yeah, we have plenty of room to do that. And if we happen to lose a spot or two, we lose a spot or two. But, you know, we have the parking, we have enough parking to what we feel we're comfortable. We're not over-parked, but we're comfortable.
Okay, so you'll meet the.
We're going to meet the write-up. We don't have a problem with anything we've seen in the reviews.
Thank you.
Mr. Lambert?
Yeah, and maybe staff, Mr. Carlisle can answer this question, but I don't think the issue is lack of trees except for the one tree. I think it's the location of the tree.
Yeah, so our ordinance requires that we don't allow basically rows, you know, supposed to be every 8 spaces, you're supposed to be broken up with an island. So these rows are a little bit more than 8 spaces. This one's definitely more than 8 spaces, is where you need a parking lot island to break it up. The issue is, you know, he did note there's short one parking lot tree. However, we note that 9 of the required 16 are actually outside of the parking lot. They're not located interior. So our point is that they're significantly above parking. If they could lose a few parking spaces, you could move some of these 9 trees that are outside the parking lot into the parking lot to break up this expansive, you know, you can look here, this is a pretty expansive area without any landscaping.
Okay.
That's the point of that comment.
Yeah. And I think in the past, we've generally preferred to see the trees in the lot just to reduce the heat island effect. So
Yeah.
if we asked you to move some of those trees from the perimeter to the inside of the lot, could you afford to lose a few parking
Yes.
spots to accommodate that?
Yes.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Ms. Malala-Holly?
Thank you. Can you speak a little bit to the transparency alternatives that you are seeking for this project?
Well, we have if we can go to the elevation, the transparency as the ordinance exists allows us to do a combination of glazing and then a mixed material. Well, we wanted to use a mixed material anyhow because it's industrial, so that's where the light blue comes in. So that's the transitional differentiation of the material, and then the glazing makes up the rest of it, so that the blue represents the change of material at 17% of that requirement, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Are those 9 squares sort of to the left behind the people?
That's
Are
glass.
Those are windows?
Yep,
into
that's
the
windows.
Into the, did you think of putting windows across maybe at the top at a high level to let light in, to add to your transparency from the front?
We've had different versions of this elevation, but this kind of makes the most sense with the floor plan and the equipment placement that's going behind it.
Okay.
So that had to be considered when we were going about this.
Fair enough. Yep.
Can you speak to the elevation of the new building that is being built, that is being proposed, and the existing building? What's the elevation difference between the two?
I don't know off the top of my head. We're at 33 feet here, and the other building is 24, I believe. I think it was in our package. we had some elevations in there. I don't know if you have that? No.
Do you have any pictures, elevations showing the side of the building to show how the new building will attach to the old building? And also what the old building, the old entrance will look like if it's no longer going to be an entrance? Based on the floor plan, it looks like it's going to be turned into bathrooms and storage and whatever,
Right,
but
right.
there's no elevation to show us what that's going to look like. Or I didn't see one.
24, okay, the existing's 24 feet. We do have that in our package. It wasn't selected out for here, but in our drawing package that exists, if anybody wants to see that, but,
They've all got the agendas.
okay. We just don't have that graphic here. That the existing front door, if you would, off of Norwood now is going to be basically just, like you said, the back half of the building. That turns into the working end of the building.
The rendering on
There it
124
is.
kind of gets it.
This is the front.
That's the back.
Right. And the next one down is the side.
This is the front. I mean, where's the
Right,
back?
right there, you just passed it.
Past it. It's
Right there.
those are the four elevations of the building combined.
Oh, I mean, I'm looking for a 3D rendering.
I would be too.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
there
we have
isn't
no
one.
idea what it looks like,
It's just
what
pe-
the
yeah.
building looks like. All we have is this one picture on page 124, without a 3D rendering. I mean, this is what you're showing us for the building. It's very hard to know what the back of the building's going to look like, what the side of the building's going to look like.
Well, the existing building is going to remain the existing building. It's going to look exactly like it looks now.
Yes. So from this view, it looks like there's going to be a strip on the bottom of white brick maybe, and then blue. Is that going to continue on and you're going to repaint the whole thing so it looks like it's always one building?
Well, it will be, yes, the new panels will match the existing panels on the building. So from the waistline up, from the brick up, that's going to continue all the way around the building. And then that colored panel for the entry facade, the blue will be the new color. So it'll look like one contiguous building.
Okay. Yes.
Just a comment that I would like to make here. As part of our application process, you're fully aware that we do need 3D renderings of buildings that are being built in conjunction with ones that exist. I highly encourage you, because this one page does not give us enough information to understand the scale and scope and the massing that is going to be on that property. And also, it's a north, south, east, west imaging. It helps us to get to understand. We are not looking for a video, we are not looking for a drone-like shot. We just want some good 3D renderings to make a good decision and to also have an eye on how this project is going to look like when it's built. So I highly encourage you to include those kind of elements into your application packet.
Mr. Fox?
Yeah, just I want to throw in that in general, I think it's a really cool adaptive reuse of a space. I think it's really going to help spruce up the existing building in the area in general. I think really it's just, to quote someone who may not be here, the devil's in the details. And I think that's more where a lot of these questions are, like, as to the specifics of how it relates to the buildings. You know, it's a good project. It's just getting those last couple of things ironed out. So overall, I'm very much in favor of the project, so.
Yeah, it's a great addition.
Anyone else? Mr. Tagle?
Good evening.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun project. I'm almost with you about trying these rides out, but I think I might hurt myself at my age.
Well, they say 20% of the users are 25 years and above, so
Well,
we still got a chance.
And above.
Pretty big range.
Steve,
It is a big range.
My only thought would be on this transparency thing. And I understand that there's been a number of these done around the country, and so that there's experience going into these. I would like you to talk to the team and see if you could add a little bit more fenestration on that new elevation. And one of the reasons, number one, to help you with the transparency, I'm not suggesting you have to get all the way to 30, but the other aspect of that, I think if you can give a glimpse, some high, large windows, to give a glimpse to the public to see a little bit of what's going on in there, could be a real nice selling point and fun, like interest. Wow, what's going on? Let's go and check that out.
Right.
So that would be my suggestion, to see if the team would be willing to up that. I don't remember what the percentage was.
13.
13. Yeah, if you could bump that up some, because I looking at those renderings there, I understand you've got the kind of that 9x9 glass area below, but I'm almost thinking of something up into the dark blue that again might be a real attractive and just give a glimpse on the inside and the fun. I'm sure all these rides they have different colors and the lighting is going to be pretty vibrant in there. So that would be my thoughts, to take that back and talk to the team about that.
I had a question about on page, Brent, could you put up page 122? Thank you. On the bottom, there's a basketball court, and then it looks to the right. I'm wondering, are those pickleball courts? Because there were pickleball courts mentioned, but I'm wondering.
No, they're not. It's a bouncy floor kind of thing.
Oh, interesting. So there are no pickleball courts?
No.
Okay, there's a basketball court.
Yeah.
Is that part of the normal Slick City, or did you guys add that?
Yeah. The actually franchisee gets to pick. They negotiate which kind of elements they want, and this is the current setup for the elements.
Okay. And then normally on Crooks Road, we like to have the primary entrance of a building on Crooks Road, and I get it, it's set way back and you're dealing with an existing building. Was there any thought to somehow putting part of it, like the addition on Crooks and connecting the building in a different way, or no? I mean, is that possible?
As far as,
Having a presence on Crooks Road, because right now it's so set back. I mean, it's set back significantly
Right.
from Crooks. And you're sort of entering on a side road now.
right. Well, this is the practical addition to that existing building. That's what establishes it, and the square footages are developed by corporate, the footprint they need. So it's more about just a practical matter of, as far as putting a narrow addition down to one side to reach out to Crooks. Then we're stuck with, the layout of the FF&E part of it, really goes sideways.
And one other concern, I guess, on 120, I think it's just 121. Let me see. No, it's not. I think it's 119 then. Yeah, 119. So that strip, basically just south of the building, is there a sidewalk there?
No.
And I imagine there's not going to be room for a sidewalk based on.
Correct.
Because that to me is problematic. That's a very long place, and it's basically a drive where cars are coming in, and anyone who's parked along there who has to walk all the way up to get into the building, I wonder where they're walking.
Well, the way this layout has worked out is the door you were asking about earlier off of Norwood is actually going to be the employee entrance there.
Okay.
And this parking here is going to be employee parking on the south side. And so the customer-focused parking will be coming off of Crooks. That's our intent for the design, so.
So there'll be signs on this south strip that'll say employee parking only,
We can do that.
and they'll enter through the back, or through
Yeah, they're
the
entering,
northward
the
side.
employees all go, that's where the employees go in that existing entry plaza. We're moving the door actually, but that entry plaza that exists, that's where the employees will enter.
And what are the business hours of this place?
I don't know, to tell you the truth.
It is 7 days a week, but maybe
Yeah, but
4 PM on
yeah,
weekdays and.
Correct.
Longer.
I don't know what the restrictions are as far as the municipality placed on that and what Mr. Beckner's intent is.
Okay. And there was a lighting plan in the parking lot? That was all?
Sorry, Tim Honoway with Ronish Construction.
Yep.
Also part of the project. To answer your last question, it would be 7 days a week, potentially 9 to 8. Just wanted to mention, Toby has, Mr. Buchner has multiple buildings in the same location, working under similar hours.
Yeah, okay.
timeframes.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Yep.
Anybody? Yep, Ms. Malala Holly.
Two more points that we have that we need to find out from you. One is providing the trash enclosure screening details, and the other one is to clarify the location of your mechanical equipment.
So the trash enclosure was included on ASP 2, so I don't know why that comment was made, but it was overlooked, but that detail is in the packet. The only ground-mounted equipment is going to be a transformer, electrical transformer. We're waiting for DTE. On that location, it's going to be somewhere on that, on the northwest corner of the building, where the existing pole-mounted transformer is.
Yep, Mr.
Thought,
Pratt.
just to reflect on what John Tagle was saying about the entrance. Fenestration, basically some relief, that's just a flat wall. There's nothing, and it, you know, it just begs to see maybe that light blue area pop out maybe a foot or something to make it like, wow, this is an exciting place, not just a warehouse.
Right.
So that's what I would just, just same kind of comments John was talking about. Make that grand entrance a lot more grand than it is right now.
Okay. Awning. We're planning on also putting an awning over that front entry as well.
I was just wonder if you could do that, yes. All right, that would be good.
Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant while they're standing up here?
Did the gentleman in the gray sweater sign in? I just want to check for Ms. Sarnecki. Sorry.
Can I just comment?
Yes, please.
Strong vest game by this team tonight.
Both rolled up sleeves and everything, yeah, looking good.
Yeah, we see you.
I was going to say something when I mentioned that.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned it right from the beginning. Just like the previous applicant, we really appreciate the creativity and the use of buildings that are existing. It's a challenging, I mean, I drove over there, it's a challenging site, no doubt, and it's clearly going to be an improvement, getting all those trucks that are currently parked and adding landscaping. I think, we appreciate people, investing in properties such as these. It's definitely a welcome and thing, and I think you guys did a pretty good job. And you're bringing something exciting to Troy
Absolutely.
for people of all ages.
And
Right.
Mr. Buchner wants everyone, this will be the first one in Michigan. That's a
Cool.
big deal.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Mr. Lambert.
Just one quick comment. I follow up on Mr. Krent and Mr. Tagle's comments. I just pulled up a Slick City in just outside St. Louis, Missouri, and they have a kind of an interesting brick facade that might appeal to the two artists that are sitting up here with us. So if you take a look at that, I don't want you to spend tons of money on it, but it might appeal to what their concerns are, so.
But no, this is a very exciting project, so thank you
Thank
for bringing this to Troy, and I'm sure it will receive a lot of people's attention. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So unlike the previous application that was before us, this one we can take action on tonight. So we can, if someone wants to make a motion before we discuss, if someone wants to first talk. Yep, Mr. Fox.
I guess I just wanted to open up a discussion based on a lot of the conversation that we have with the applicant and with the planning department. I guess maybe just a quick nod of heads is, are we leaning towards potentially postponement so that they could come in and maybe address some of the questions and changes that we suggested? And
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Lambert?
Before a potential resolution, did you want to have any public comment on this? I know it's not a public hearing, but
Yeah, that's a good idea.
somebody.
Mr. Lambert, we should do that. If anyone's here who would like to speak on this project, we'll open it up for public comment. Okay. Just make sure you sign in.
I will,
Okay,
for sure.
thanks.
Thank you. Hi, yes, my name is Julie Beekner. I'm Toby's wife, and I just want to say thank you for being here tonight and listening to our new project. He's very excited about it, and today is our anniversary of 19 years of being in business, so he's just excited to take it to another level, and this is going to be something totally new and different, and it's a franchise, which we've never done before, so it's going to be really exciting, and it's getting great reviews, and so we're really excited. So I just want to say thank you all very much, and that's it. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. All right, is there anyone else?
Speak out all of the items that you had on the agenda.
You come up because we can't hear you.
It include all the items you had on the agenda? That's what I saw in the note, just an overview. And take up your time.
This is the last item on the agenda before public comment for items on the
Okay.
agenda. But
wait for
we
that.
sometimes allow people to come up and speak for items on the agenda. We don't have to because it's not a public hearing tonight, but just so that way if we want to consider anyone's feedback before we make our decision.
Okay.
And then we'll have it again after we finish this item, we'll have it again. Okay, I think we're going to close that section of the, I mean, no more public
I'm
comment.
sorry. Okay.
Because I don't
I
see
see.
anyone
I
else
see what
rushing
you're-
up,
okay,
so
yeah.
we're going to bring it back, yep. Mr. Fox?
So I'm going to make a motion, but I do want to say for a second there, for a moment, I thought Mrs. Beekner was saying that they were spending their wedding anniversaries at a planning commission meeting. Don't get me wrong, I like being on planning commission, but I do not think I will be doing that myself. But I appreciate the clarification, it was a business anniversary. I would like to offer up a motion to postpone. Let me just scroll up to that. Okay. I'd like to make a motion, the proposed that preliminary site plan approval pursuant to Article 8 of the zoning ordinance as requested for the proposed Slick City Action Park Troy Indoor Commercial Recreation Facility, east side of Crooks, north of Maple, 1820 Crooks and 1749 at Northwood, Section 28, approximately 3.02 acres in size, currently zoned MR and IB, be postponed for the applicant to consider the following conditions. So reorientation of the parking lot trees to potentially bring them within the parking lot. Clarity on the trash enclosure. I don't know if that was discussed to the satisfaction. Okay, provide some clarity on the trash enclosure as well as clarity on the mechanical equipment. As well as consider suggested alterations to the front facade and provision of more clear 3D renderings that show the connection between the existing building and the proposed new building so that we can kind of get a visual on what that looks like. Were there any other points just to toss in?
One more tree, is it? We need one more.
Yes,
tree
addition
there?
of one more tree in the parking lot as well.
And it's going to also require the, I mean, I think it's going to require an easement for that parking.
Oh, yes, please, it sounds like the easement's in the works, so if that, bring that back, presentation on that, or just include it in the next packet, or go from there.
We typically require that prior to final. Just,
Sure.
And also widen the first drive aisle to the west of and parallel to the building to 26 feet to accommodate fire trucks.
Yes, a widening of 2 feet to accommodate fire trucks at the first lane closest to the building.
I'll second that.
I mean, I have something to say, but I imagine it'll be part of discussion. So, I mean, we should, I guess, second this and move on and get to discussion. So, do we have a second?
Lambert?
Mr. Lambert, okay. So, one concern I have, and it's just, it's a safety issue because I've seen it at other buildings where there's basically just a building and then a parking across the street and no place to walk. I do understand that it's going to be, I mean, we could ask him to put in there that it's employee parking, and so hopefully they're coming before hours and leaving after hours, and there's not traffic at that time, and it'll, and they can walk there. But I would say that I would want that to be labeled employee parking, because if you have kids walking on that, that's just a dangerous, I mean, I see it, and it's permitted, but it's dangerous, in my opinion. Yes, Mr. Faison.
I agree with, your thought on that, but as I was thinking about it, as the applicant was speaking, the entrance is in the front. They have all that parking in the front. So my view is, as a practical matter, that's where you would park if you were bringing your kids. Right? You park near the front door. You wouldn't park down that side.
Correct.
And you'd also going to come in on Crooks.
Right, that's what I'm
not-
wondering. The address, I'm assuming, when you put it into your GPS, will hopefully bring you through the Crooks entrance, and the Northwood entrance would almost be like an employee entrance, would be my hope.
And it should be labeled, as you said. I agree with that.
And maybe, can it be labeled that way? Or no? I mean,
So we talked about this at length in the pre-application meeting. We had the same concerns but it's existing, there's no room for it because of the things we talked about. But today, as it stands, that's primary parking for that building. Now, the building is empty, but when it's full, that's the primary parking. Now, by combining the parcels, adding this use to the western end of the building, and to Mr. Faison's point, the front of that building with the color and the glass, it's clearly the front of the building with the address and navigation. Everyone uses navigation. We think this problem is going to kind of take care of itself. So the staff's going to get there early, fill the parking spaces. The customers are going to come later, park closest to the building. Maybe you could argue that the spaces along the south are closer, but to your perception-wise, with all that glass, it's going to feel closer to park on that in the newly paved parking lot. So, but having said all that, there is merit in providing signage that says parking for customers in the front or here. There's merit in that. I think that would only help.
okay. So maybe when you're heading east, where it gets narrow, it can say employee parking beyond this point or something. And then if you're coming in the other way, customer parking towards Crooks. I mean, it's not like it's going to be policed, but I think it would just help.
Agreed. Give some direction.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I'm happy to amend the motion if that's what this body wants to do, but we have already, formally requested kind of 3D renderings. I take it the applicant's probably paying very close attention. And hearing our comments, it would be interesting to see if included on those 3D renderings, we can see kind of some draw-ups of what signage could look like, what different types of safety precautions could look like for that southern parking lot, along with getting a look of the building as a whole. So,
Yeah, thank you. And it did remind me, I had also wanted to mention, it's a pretty long area, maybe a speed bump or two would be appropriate. I don't know, I mean, did the traffic consultant look at this and suggest anything?
I don't think we sent it to the consultant, but the engineering department did not suggest that.
Okay.
Quick
Again,
thought.
most of the people arriving are going to arrive from Crooks, and they're not going to
Right.
they're not going to use that.
Okay. Yes.
Not to take up a lot of time, but in the practical sense, if the employee entrance is in the back of the building on that, was it north, whatever it is? Okay, that street, they're going to park closer to that side of the building, that end of the building. So those spaces from it would be the east side would fill up pretty much along that line. I don't know how many employees they'll have, but, and then like Mr. Savinant was saying, if that front parking lot where the majority of people are going to be coming in and it was just all filled, the first couple spots of that long southern parking area, they may have a few customers park there. And that's close enough so they don't have a long walk along a building to do it. They just basically walk right across that area. So I think it'll almost self-regulate that way, but it wouldn't hurt to have signage. I just don't want to say employee parking only right at that corner near the purple, corner saying employees only, because a customer could easily park there and just walk the 10 feet, into the entrance. So the signage, I don't think I wouldn't like to see it mandatory, the whole thing be employee parking. I think it'll self-regulate, but you could say maybe 2/3 of it would say employee parking only or something like that.
Okay.
Just my thoughts. It doesn't, we don't have to put that in the resolution.
The proximity to the building, that's a good point, yes. People may tend to want to park there, raining, snowing, whatever, they
Yeah.
may want to, yeah, that's a valid point.
And the only other thought I had was, did we need to do anything about the drive, which is an easement? Is there anything that we need to do? So it's going to be taken care of, it's going to be paved, it's going to be plowed, that's all worked out? Okay. All right, so there is a motion, it's been seconded. There was a motion to postpone. Okay, I think, are we ready for the roll call?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're ready.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krant?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Yes,
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight, yep. So we're moving on to public comment for items that are on the agenda. So if anyone's here who wants to talk about something that was already on the agenda, now's the time.
It's an overview. Thank you for taking time for listening to me, and I finally got to, be here with the Planning Commission, and it was insightful. I commend all of you, particularly for the time you took and how much you scrutinized, that people were here presenting their projects and the projects themselves. And, I live right off of Big Beaver Road, so whenever I'm driving, I have my mind always on the landscaping and the architecture. And many times I'm in other communities and I see something architectural and I think, gee, I wonder how that would look or would look great in Troy. So I don't know if you ever have done that yourselves, if you ever pick up an architectural digest, and particularly just prior to even opening up these options to people, like that great area of land after the, Kmart building was knocked down, what you would have liked to have seen there anyway, that you present to these architecture. Well, we like this kind of architecture, these things that perhaps you might consider for that area. So that's about it. But I don't know if you are aware of this hidden gem in Troy that is right off of basically Crooks and Big Beaver Road. And I think I forget the name of the street, Butter, something like that. There's Kurtz Boulevard, then there's another light, and then Big Beaver Road.
Butterfield?
Butterfield. Go down Butterfield. Right on your left is this residential complex that has been there for years, probably the biggest jewel in Troy that we don't even know about. I'd love to see something like that on Big Beaver Road.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, so I think we're on to Planning Commission comment. Let's start with Mr. Fox.
I am all set, thank you.
Yep, Mr. Hudson.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Faison?
Question for Ben, or maybe for Ben and Brent. Did the initial applicant say that Ann Arbor had eliminated their park? I thought I saw an article on that. Any?
It's becoming more and more common in bigger cities is to eliminate parking.
yes.
So no required parking?
No required parking in the city of Ann Arbor. So, I mean,
How long has that been the case?
it's been at least a year, I believe.
Okay.
Now, just because they say there's no parking doesn't mean that people don't put in parking because developers think they need it for various reasons. But
No, the developer chooses.
the developer chooses, but there's no city
Ordinance.
ordinance mandate that you have to put in parking for a development.
Right.
And I live in Ann Arbor, I work there, my office there, I have not seen a significant parking problem in Ann Arbor. Plenty of parking.
More than already exists.
And when we evaluate parking, will that be one of the range of
I don't,
alternatives we look at?
no parking?
No required.
I'm not sure the city is ready to go that far yet, but we will certainly
I said,
explore options.
would it be within the range of alternatives? That's what I said, yeah.
It'll be on a far end range, yes,
Okay.
but yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll consider it.
Are you proposing that we look into that?
Well, we said we were going to look into parking, right, and the requirement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
wasn't-
we've had two projects today, right? We had one where we thought it was underparked, and one where we thought it was overparked. And we listened to the applicant, and they both had rationales that seemed to make more sense than our ordinance, at least in my opinion. So that's why I asked the question.
I'll just hop
Do
in.
you want to go off the record and say, I'm just kidding.
I'll just hop in to show support for Mr. Faison's point there.
Mr.
And I'm saying
Lambert?
it should be an analysis. I'm not saying that's where we go. Right.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Buechner, welcome back. I just skipped over you.
We'll wait.
Do you have anything for Planning Commission comment?
I'll skip, thank you.
Okay, Mr.
I
Lambert?
was just going to say, we could look at radically following Mr. Faison's recommendation on parking if we had better public transit in Troy. So first, we got to get smart to implement citywide smart flex programs so that they don't shaft the northern half of Troy. So, but that's another comment for another time. Related to that, when we're talking about this Big Beaver project, I know 2 city managers ago, the city did a Move Across Troy program where they looked at increasing pedestrian crossings across Big Beaver. Is the city doing anything with that, or is it kind of defunct at this point?
I wouldn't say it's defunct. We need to improve the mid-block crossings throughout the city, along Big Beaver. It's not defunct. We just need the political and economic wherewithal to make improvements. We are, the gentleman who spoke earlier, he referenced landscaping along Big Beaver. We have developed a Big Beaver landscaping plan for the portion of the Big Beaver within the DDA, which is pretty significant. And I think if this gentleman was provided that document to look at, I think he'd be very impressed. It's very thoughtful, and I think when it's completed, and the DDI portion seems to be taking a long time. That's the first step here at the interchange, but it's a phased plan over years, almost a decade. But when it's completed, it's going to be a world-class landscaping, and it does incorporate mid-block crossings in that design.
That was presented to us, I thought.
Was.
I don't know if we had to approve it, but it was presented to us, because we got a grant, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Malala, were you done, Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Yeah, thank you. To the gentleman's point, on a couple social media sites, I did read this frequently, about 2 years now, where Big Beaver stretch, where you have those beautiful trees are decorated with Christmas lights, but then it stops right smack at Rochester Road, and it doesn't extend beyond Rochester Road all the way along till Dick Winder. And yeah, the residents on that side of Troy were visibly upset that they don't have this kind of a thing, even though it is a city of Troy, but it only stretches X number of miles. So I totally understand where the gentleman is coming from. To the point of inside the city crosswalks and safe pedestrian crossings, refresh my memory, the Long Lake and Rochester Road project that's coming up now that the homes are being built, the Robertson property, the big one, development that's taking place. I know when we did our neighborhood walks, we tried to cross Long Lake, and it was a challenge then. Is that going to be addressed at all? Because I know the homes that will be sitting across Long Lake have the shopping district to walk to. The walkability factor is really going to be enhanced now with those homes coming. Is that stretch also going to be, something is going to happen there? I don't remember in terms of walkability for the residents.
So pedestrians can safely and conveniently get across Long Lake. Our challenge was doing it in one light cycle, one traffic cycle. So if you remember, we walked to the boulevard, to the median, we stopped, and we waited for the next light. So it was uncomfortable.
Yes.
Just with cars whipping by, but it was, I suppose it felt unsafe, but it really wasn't unsafe with curbing and landscaping and whatnot. So it is pedestrian safe. What we've done, we've removed that from the nodes because if you remember on the neighborhood node walk and talk, we felt that because of the development pattern, a lot of the uses had large parking lots or had drive-throughs or what have you, and because of the more importantly the width of Long Lake and the width of Rochester Road at that location, being multiple lanes boulevarded, it just didn't lend itself to creating a unified node, including all four intersections. It was more appropriate to remove it from the nodes and revert back to other zoning. So we've taken that out, but the Long Lake development you referred to is going to have a trailway, a multi-purpose trailway that runs through that, and ultimately is going to connect to the trailway that is across Livernois here. So it's anticipated we're going to see more people on bikes in that part of town, and of course the sidewalk along Long Lake and Rochester will remain, and hopefully we'll have a lot of pedestrians walking from that new development and spending money at the various businesses at that intersection.
Yeah, with the very busy Indian grocery store there and a very busy Indian restaurant that has come up, I can see how people can use walkability from living across. And I was just thinking about the safety point of view, but thank you for elaborating on that.
Nothing,
Friend?
no, all
Mr.
set.
Tagle?
Good.
Ms. Dufresne? I'm all set, thank you. Mr. Sada? Mr. Carlo? Okay, I'm all set as well. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.